one. I try to remember all their numbers. I don't remember Tom's suddenly. Nerd! I am a nerd. Tom's is... Anyway, let me talk about them real quick. So the threes are not quite like the twos. The threes are child recruits, but for the most part, they were orphans from glassed planets or Covenant attacks. And therefore, they were technically volunteers. Because basically somebody walked up and said, hey, do you want to avenge your parents' deaths? And they went, sure. Sounds great. They became child soldiers. They went through an augmentation process, etc., etc. With that one thing, what group did that start with? Was it the Gammas that they started doing the horrible stuff to?
Delta.
The Spartan 3 program went in waves. Like the Spartan 2s, they all went in one batch. The Spartan 3s went in like waves.
The 3s were only going, we want more of these troops, but we don't want to take the time to make them excellent. So here.
They're basically, they like throw them at shit knowing that these kids are gonna die.
Yep.
Basically. They're like expendable, is the way that it's looked at, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but they do some really horrible stuff to them to make them more super soldiery. Some of them. My favorite ones are going to be Tom and Lucy. They appear in Ghosts of Onyx at the very beginning of that book and are just fantastic characters. Also in Glasslands very prominently. Definitely my favorite part of Glasslands is the two of them. Well, all the threes. The thing about it is, and this, I don't think this will ever get said. And it's also one of the reasons why people think the game Reach is kind of funky in canon and how it deals with stuff. Because it contradicts a little bit of some of the books. The threes, Beta Company was pretty much wiped out except for two of them in an operation.
Yeah, I can fill that
and that's
gap
Tom
in.
and Lucy.
Yeah, I can fill in the gap you're having issues with in a minute.
Oh no, I'm not having issues. I'm just like trying to say it without being insanely spoilery. The point I want to make is that the things they did to the threes were absolutely as horrific as the twos, if not more. However,
where the twos were Yeah, go on.
Nobody is ever held accountable for that. This is something you find out in Glasslands. And I'm sure it's elaborated on in Thursday War, that the people who were behind the threes program were even part of it. They made them deliberately more aggressive, and it made them like addicted to this substance that they had to have like basically a counter agent for.
Yep.
Nobody behind that is ever punished.
They're
and
dead.
That is one of the issues that I have. Well, but they're held up as war heroes. And that's annoying to me. Nobody who was involved in it is ever held, to my knowledge anyway, to the points that I've read, sorry if this is different, they're not held accountable by Oni and the UNSC, brass. There's a part of Glasslands that addresses that, and that is the part of Glasslands that really bothers me. The addressing of that issue and how it's handled with relation to the twos. But yeah, it's pretty horrific, and yet no one, it was completely sanctioned by the UNSC and especially Oni.
It was...
Nobody ever took the fall for any of that. Yeah, in what I've read. Now, maybe, one of the newer books is going to prove me wrong. I would appreciate that.
I don't know.
But I'm a little behind.
But the threes are UNSC's big secret about the Spartans. They're a little ashamed of them.
They totally are because they fucking... Sorry, language.
Yeah, no, you're fine. But they're... For obvious reasons, they're not... for obvious reasons, they're ashamed of what they've done with the threes.
They were never held up as heroes.
No, they were seen as disposable troops. And the only ones that really cared were the folks that got recruited to train them. And
Kurt!
And the guy... Well, and the main guy that was stuck... recruiting them, this is what I was saying, the big difference between the twos and threes is Halsey stopped and was able to put a stop to the twos after you'll see why. But what the twos went through, she knows more about Halsey's thoughts on that than I do.
I know a lot, yeah. I know a lot about the Halsey stuff.
Yeah, she knows that, but the guy who was in charge of the threes didn't have that choice. The guy in charge of the threes was a Spartan 2 himself that Oni recruited.
Sorry about all the book spoilers, guys.
Yeah, I probably should have made this a book spoiler. Oh, whatever.
Rife with book spoilers.
Yeah, we're rife with book spoilers here.
They're old. I'm just kidding. This is not like spoiling Game of Thrones.
No, like... this is stuff you figure out. These aren't spoilers when you start poking through Halopedia. Like,
yeah, it's just any of the Halo wikis.
No, Kurt. Yeah.
Or Kurt. We shouldn't probably say very much about Kurt.
No, we won't talk about Kurt.
And we won't talk about the other individual until it becomes relevant.
Yeah, for reasons.
In what we're listening to, actually.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's, I'm not gonna, never mind, I'm not gonna get into my issues with a certain individual, but,
that's because of a certain author.
There is characterization issues with one of these characters in one of the books, and I'm just disappointed in it. But I don't want to say they change it for Hunt the Truth.
Yeah.
They adjust it a little bit, they shift it a little bit where it's back to where it was. Again, no offense to anybody, I'm just saying, is different. Yeah, but the threes are just a dirty little secret. But they're close to my heart, and fortunately, they have been brought back up in canon. Yep. So I'm really excited about that. I don't think they're going to get mentioned in Halo 5 or anything like that. But
we can dream.
If I swear to you, if Lucy showed up in something, I would have to quit the fandom. I would have to quit. I would have to leave. I would have to quit. I would be too happy to exist on this plane of existence. I wouldn't be able to handle.
So you're like me if I ever got more Jacob stuff, okay?
Oh Jesus, yeah, you would probably.
I can dream, okay?
You should dream. You should dream that dream. You should dream that dream. You know why? Because that's what makes you happy.
It got me a book.
I don't know what makes you...
It got me a book.
Okay, that's important. It is. It's very important.
But then it got me Sully, voiced by the
Nickelodeon actor.
The brother in iCarly.
You're super silly.
So, you know.
You're super silly.
No. Would you stop?
Would you stop yelling? I didn't do anything. What did I do?
Nothing at you, my game. Yeah, I agree, Muriel.
Yeah, I feel this feel. I have my RVB girl. So.
Yeah, it's Jacob and Hood and Lasky for me. If I got anything more, there's an obvious thing here. Only one of them is under the age of 50.
There's a pattern. There's a pattern.
No, there is not. Lasky's not the oldest one in canon anymore.
Oh my God.
John actually is older than him.
You're killing me.
And he's also not married.
Spam
Hasn't been accused of nepotism. Oh God, Fred, yeah.
Fred is your Halo babby. He's the star of the new book, which I need to read more of, like I said.
Yeah, Last Light is a love song to Fred.
It really is. I'm really glad that the Blues are back. They deserve to stay in the limelight. They're so important to older Halo fans. Like, they're really, really significant, I think, to people who like the older materials, because you get attached to all these different groups of the twos. But blue team is always the core because they're
Chief's family.
They have Chief's back from day one. And they are his family. They're what he has. And I would wax poetic about his relationship to Kelly or to Fred or to Linda and the beautiful things that especially happen in Fall of Reach to make them such a solid group. I'm always charmed by Linda's very existence in that group. Always cracks me up because I love Linda. I heart Linda because she is a badass, and that's really... Sorry, I'm like moving something. She's badass. She's a sniper. And then there's Kelly.
Wait, did I?
Who's more of a... Kelly's? Would you say she's close combat?
Recon.
Chief is the one who gets through really close combat out of all of them.
Kelly's recon.
Kelly's recon. That's a good point. Kelly's very much recon. What Fred is? Mid?
Technically, Fred's in charge.
Yeah, technically Fred is in charge of blue team. Technically, it's not actually Chief.
Technically, Fred outranks everyone.
He have a higher rank?
Yeah, he's a lieutenant.
He is a lieutenant. That's right. I freaking forgot that. Oh, bless Fred. I remember that he was in charge. I just forgot that he was actually like higher ranked. I love how Fred is still like, you know what? Actually, not my fight.
Yeah, I'm like, no, we're not getting.
He's so precious. Fred knows when to step back, though.
Yeah.
Fred, I respect. The commentary in chat is, Neriel says, I love Fred the most, but I love Kelly because while Fred is the emotions of the group, Kelly is like, no crying, gotta keep moving. And Kelly's not, it's not that Kelly is cold, it's that Kelly is very driven. And then you have Linda, who's practically an ice queen, and she has like 4 sentences in a row at one point. We're all like,
we can talk.
Linda talked. She's by the book. She's business. Fred knows when to step back. That's something I really like about Fred, is he really knows when to step back from a situation, and when he needs to make a different kind of decision. I love him to pieces. I love Blue Team because they're so different and so complementary.
It's also why he doesn't fight with John about who's in charge.
Yeah, they know that they are a well-oiled machine.
Yep.
The 4 of them get together. And that they work better as a unit than any of them do individually. Yeah. Now, I swear to you, if I totally get jossed on that in Halo 5, so be it. So freaking be it. But, I'm kind of worried Chief is gonna, like, do something stupid. But the very fact that he's working with them at all in Halo 5 is beautiful. And just really cool. I'm like, that's so cool. I love Blue Team. I love them. But that's just me. And like, I have to say that I am biased. Really, really biased because I love Halsey so much. So like, if I really, really like a character, I tend to get biased toward their opinion on things in some circumstances. So in my case, you know, when she takes extreme actions with regard to the twos, you know, I try to see why she's doing it that way. And I critique it, you know, mentally and whatnot, as a human being. But I like to see her perspective on things, especially Kelly. John is her precious angel baby. But she really loves Kelly. She loves Kelly. Absolutely adores Kelly. And that's, because really when she thinks of trying to get the Spartans out of the situations that they end up in, it's Kelly that is the trigger. And I find that endlessly fascinating. I really love the relationship between Halsey and each of the twos. But actually, this is the truth. And I'm sorry to even myself. Her interactions with Kelly, actually, I like better than her interactions with John. As far as not necessarily like the content